Guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be sharing my story and giving you information about getting an epidural to maybe make your decision easier if you're planning on maybe getting an epidural or you're trying to decide whether or not to get it. I'm just going to give you a few facts of it. Most of my information that I got is from a website that I'm going to leave in the description box, so you can go check it out. I didn't really write down all the information, but if you're interested in reading the rest of it, I'm going to leave the link down below. So to begin with, maybe you might not know what an epidural is, but an epidural is basically an anesthetic that numbs you from the waist down, and they usually administer it when you're at least 4 centimeters dilated. Anything before that, they're not going to give it to you, so you have to wait till you're 4 centimeters dilated. Now, another thing that you might ask yourself is, how do they administer it? So when they administrate the epidural, they can administer it in 2 ways. You can either lay down on your left side, or you can do it sitting down. So for me, they had me sit down, and sometimes they give you a pillow, or there is an extra nurse there to help you. And basically you have to arc your back, and they'll clean the area that they're going to put the catheter in, and then they're going to poke you with a needle. And to be honest, the needle was probably the only thing that hurt out of the whole thing. And I don't like feeling pain, which is one of the reasons why I got the epidural. But so it's gonna kind of feel like getting a shot on your back. So that's basically that's all they do, is they poke you with the needle, and then they're gonna insert the tubing through the needle, and then after they do that, they're gonna pull the needle out carefully, and then they're gonna tape the tubing to your back so it doesn't get pulled out for any reason. So that's basically the process of how you get it. And of course, after they do all that, they're gonna put in the medicine, and it's gonna go through the tube, and you're gonna have great relief from your contractions. So another question that sometimes moms ask themselves before getting an epidural is it going to affect their baby? Now, as I was reading through this article, they basically said that it's not 100% sure that an epidural causes the list of things that I'm going to read to you, but other factors also contribute into it. So it's kind of hard for them to determine if it really does or doesn't. But like I said, other factors contribute into this happening. So don't think that if you get an epidural, this is going to happen to you. So one of the things that the epidural might cause is your baby to struggle with latching, which I personally think that my baby did, regardless of other factors that also contributed to it. But I think that was one of the reasons, because every time I had to feed him, he was always kind of drowsy, so I would have to undress him and wake him up and stuff like that. Another thing that your baby might get while getting the epidural, that they're lethargic when they're still in the womb. They could have respiratory depression, and they can have a low fetal heart rate. So like I said, an epidural is not going to automatically give your baby these things. It's going to be other things that also contributed. So please keep that in mind also. So another thing that maybe first-time moms might question themselves as to, when can they not get an epidural? So like I mentioned earlier in the video, you cannot get an epidural if you're before 4 centimeters, if you use blood thinners, if you have a low platelet count, or hemorrhaging, if you have an infection in the back, if you have a blood infection, if the epidural space cannot be located, and lastly, if your labor has gone too fast. So I do want to mention on the last one that I had thought about kind of waiting a little bit after 4 centimeters to get the epidural. But in the end, I decided to just get it sooner, only because there is a chance that your labor could go in really fast. You could dilate really fast. So you could be at 4 centimeters at a moment, and then all of a sudden you're at 10. So by the time you hit 10 centimeters, there is no way that they could administrate the epidural to you. So now I want to talk about the benefits and the negative aspects of getting an epidural. So I'm just going to read the list again of the benefits and just kind of make note of each of them. So one of the benefits of getting an epidural is that it allows you to get rest. Now, this is totally true. When I got my epidural, I could finally go to sleep because your contractions are going to wake you up from your sleep. The day before or the night before, I had the most horrible contraction pains that I had felt. So they would wake me up at night and then I would try and go back to sleep, but eventually I just gave up the whole going to sleep thing because there was no point in me going to sleep. So another thing that is beneficial from getting an epidural is that it reduces discomfort of childbirth and it gives you a more positive experience. It does give you less discomfort before the epidural wears off. Of course, afterwards it's a whole different story, but basically I gave birth to my baby boy, and afterwards I felt like if everything was okay, nothing hurt, you know. It was like if I had never gone through anything traumatic down there. So like I said, it does give you a more positive experience for having a baby. Another benefit for getting the epidural is that it allows you to remain alert and active. So by that, there are other methods of kind of relieving pain, and those are medicines that they put through your IV. And I did do some research because I did have people telling me that I should do that I shouldn't do an epidural, and yada yada. In the end, it's going to be your decision whether you get one or not. So like I was saying, that there are other medicines that they can use to relieve pain, but the downside of those medicines is that as you being drowsy or being sleepy, or you know, just little things like that you know, you want to experience something wonderful. It's going to be the best day of your life. You're going to have your baby and you don't want to be drowsy. You don't want to be feeling all drugged up. So that's a benefit of getting an epidural. Another benefit of getting an epidural is that it's constantly being refined. And by that, I just mean that they're constantly improving it, constantly making better. So lastly, what are the negative aspects of getting an epidural? And so the risks are that you might have a blood pressure drop. You may have a severe headache due to leakage of the spinal fluid. And I do want to mention that on that negative aspect, it's less than 1% that is going to happen to you. So it's very rare that that's going to happen to you. Another negative aspect of getting the epidural is that you're going to need help moving from side to side. So I remember when I got my epidural, you know, it kind of happened so fast. You get relief kind of fast. You feel your legs tingling and then boom, they're numb. So one thing that you're going to need help on is alternating sides when you're laying down. You don't just want to be on one side for too long. So that's a downfall to getting an epidural. Another one is also that it lasts maybe even longer after you've given birth, which I have to say that's beneficial. Mine probably lasted maybe like 2 hours after giving birth, and it was just painful after that. Another negative aspect in getting an epidural is that it makes giving birth a lot harder. And I have to say this is 100% true. So as being a first-time mom, first of all, you don't even know what you have to do, how you have to push. I mean, of course, you can take classes and all that stuff, but in reality, like at the moment, I believe that none of that stuff you're even going to be thinking about. So it's like you don't even know what you're doing, and the doctors will help you and they will coach you, you know, in order to push the baby out. But when you're pushing, you're not going to be able to feel nothing. You're going to feel like if you're doing absolutely nothing. But in reality, your muscles are, you know, you are contracting your muscles to push that baby out. So it does make giving birth a little difficult. And then lastly is that it causes permanent nerve damage to the area where the catheter was placed. Now, I think this kind of happened to me, and I have had other people tell me that, let's say in the winter, their back hurts a lot. So, you know, there's different effects from getting an epidural, and mine is that sometimes when I lay down, if I lay down a certain way, I'll get a pain in my lower back. So I don't know if it was because when they were administrating or they were putting in the tubing, I have a weird ticklish spot on my back. So I kept on kind of moving, and I do have to say that do not move at all. You're supposed to stay very, very still. The nurses are going to tell you that, and the person that is going to be administrating your epidural is also going to tell you that. But for some reason, this weird, dumb, ticklish spot was just having me kind of move a little bit, and they kind of did have a hard time doing it. But eventually, the person that put my epidural or the catheter in, you know, just they got it in. But I think that was the result of me having this little back pain, which I can deal with it. So that's basically all the information that I want to share with you, and I really hope that it helps you make a decision on what to get, or maybe you just don't even want to do an epidural at all and you just want to do normal or natural birth. You know, whatever your decision is, I hope this video helped you in any sort of way, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time for my next video. Bye.